when I'm lugging all my makeup across the country or I'm having to spend an extra 30 minutes to get ready for something, and my friend Andrew is just sitting on the couch just twiddling his thumbs while I'm like having to put on eyeliner in my waterline, which means you're poking in your eye. And yeah, I don't have to do it, but it makes my eye look that much better.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
To
Gabby,
be fair, my girlfriend doesn't do it.
Your girlfriend doesn't do...
No makeup, nothing.
Well, she's also gay.
Yeah, so am I.
Gaby Dunn is our guest right now. Gaby Dunn is a author, comedian. Do you still do stand-up?
No, I mean, I did storytelling on our book tour.
Okay, so just a funny, cool chick. Gaby Dunn, her book Bad with Money, The Imperfect Art of Getting Your Financial Shit Together is available online now. You have a book. You wrote a book.
This is like a nonfiction that is based on the podcast Bad with Money. That is like about... I don't know, the genre financial memoir is a thing now. But it's like a financial memoir, but also like a helpful book.
Okay, what you have a podcast called Bad with Money?
Yes.
In which you talk to comedians and funny, cool people about being bad with money. Tell me about the podcast.
For season 1, so I didn't know anything about money. I would cry about it all the time.
That's why I'm avoiding the issue. I don't even want to talk to you about money. It's what you're here to talk about. It's how much people don't want to talk about money.
Yes. I think I've had some people be like, I love you so much. I can't listen because it gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yes.
But I started not knowing anything, and I would cry. That was like my big thing that I would cry about, and I just was always in the hole somehow, and like always had debt and never talked to anyone about it. And never, like, it was like my secret shame. And then I had the opportunity to do a podcast, and they were like, well, do you want to do something about LGBTQ issues? Do you want to do something about like sex positivity? And I was like, actually, the thing that I cry about every day is money. Maybe we should just expose that. So this
run towards it.
I know.
Yeah.
So the first season, which is super healthy.
I think so.
The first season.
The thing you're most scared to talk about, why don't I start a show about it?
Yes.
I mean, that's nuts. Well, good for you. Okay, so the first season
was me mostly talking to comedians and other artists and just sort of being like, how do you make money? Like, how do you do this? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's your situation? And I, moving to LA from New York, I didn't realize like, some people have their parents' money, or some people have side jobs that I don't know about or whatever. So I would compare myself so much to other people without knowing that their situations were so different from mine.
Yep.
So I would we would have the same income, but I take care of some family members, and I had student loans and whatever. And then I would compare myself to people who didn't have any student loans or were getting money from their parents.
Yes.
And I was like, but we have the same income, so how am I struggling? And then I was like, oh, other people have totally different situations.
And was that the first step in kind of... is that the first step?
Transparency
is just but that's so hard because no one talks about money. I grew up in a house where it was like, Nikki, you don't tell your friends how much your dad makes. You're not even I wasn't allowed to know how much money my dad made. And it wasn't like a ton of money, or it wasn't even, or when it wasn't a ton of money, I wasn't allowed to know either way. Why?
But in the book I talk about, I got such whiplash because my parents would go through phases where they would have some money and then they would have nothing.
Me too.
And so there would be days where they'd be like, oh yeah, you could definitely like go with your friends to this, like, whatever. You could go to the dance with your friends and get a new dress. And then like 2 days later, they'd be like, no, you can't.
I learned the word destitute really early on. My dad would always say, we're destitute. And I was like, I don't know what that, and I had to like look it up, and I'm like, oh no, we're poor. Like, I felt the same back and forth of like, do we have all the money or none?
None of the money. And then I would get stressed out, like, which is parentalizing, where I would be like, 12, and my parents would spend money, and I'd go, should we be doing this?
Yes. Oh my God. I remember the day. I remember the day we were driving, we were moving from Cincinnati to St. Louis. I was 6, and I remember being in the car and seeing the St. Louis Arch and just having a realization. I don't know what conversation was happening between my parents, but I remember being like, we're poor.
Yes.
Like, we're poor, and I am the only one that's going to make it so that my sister doesn't spend my parents' money.
Yes.
Because they're not going to tell her. So I started like being like, Lauren, you can't get. I would like take her aside at 7-Eleven and be like, you can only get one candy, Lauren.
Exactly.
Because I was protecting her from my parents having to tell her.
Yes.
And just protecting my parents from not being broke and fighting about it and being scared. Like,
almost exactly the same. I have a little sister too.
Yes.
And I interview her in the book, and she's like, I had no concept. I thought we were fine. I had no, she was like, if I asked mom and dad for something and they said yes, I would go, great, we have the money. So I started being like, telling her, I started telling her, you can't ask, you have to stop.
Yes.
And then she got a lot of stuff that I didn't get because I was like, well, if she's, in my mind, because my older brother also was like having trouble finding a job at the time, so like they were helping him. And so I became like, okay, I should be successful on my own because they're already helping 2 of their kids. So I need to be the one that they don't help.
Yes.
Which is so stressful to put on a teenager.
Yep. I took that. I would always be the one to take cuts and like to because I didn't want them to know that I knew either.
Yes.
Like I was trying to protect them
so
from being embarrassed.
It's fine. I don't need it.
Exactly. I don't need it. And then, but I really wanted it, and I wanted all the things that my friends were getting. And you're right. The transparency. I didn't understand. Like, how does my friend afford Abercrombie and Fitch when her dad has a similar job to mine? Like, I just didn't understand it, and I still, the transparency thing is so huge in comedy because I think that, especially for women, we get paid less than men a lot of times. And as comedians, we're also private about what we're making. And I'm like, no, it shouldn't be private. We should all talk about it because we should all be getting paid the same and more.
Yeah.
And I think that when you do find out what someone makes, you realize, oh, I need to be asking for more. I deserve more.
I had an interesting experience where me and this girl were both speaking at a conference, and she DM'd me to be like, hey, what are they paying you? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. So I told her, and she was like, okay, wow, they're paying me half of that. So I said, oh, go to them right now, drop my name, say, Gaby told me she's getting this, and I want this.
Yeah.
And then they did. They upped her fee.
That's great.
And I was like, absolutely, for sure. Like, everyone should be doing that.
But people get so uncomfortable when, when they're asked about how much money they make, both when they're not making enough and when they're making too much. When you're making a lot of money, I want to know every cent. That's why I always loved being friends with Amy Schumer, because I realized, because she was transparent about it. She wasn't bragging. She was just like, can you believe the amount of money I'm about to get for this thing? And she would tell me. And so now I know I have these I know what I should be making at different levels because I saw her rise right where I kind of am. And so I know what to expect. And I was appreciative of her telling me that. I never took it as a brag, even though some people could have. But I felt like it was, it made
let
me
you know
excited.
your self-worth. Like, it let you know what you should ask for.
Yes, it really did. And but I still struggle even. I'm at a point now where I feel rich. I feel like I don't want for anything and I'm great. But there are days when if I haven't, I stress about money. I'll still find ways to stress about money. I think it's something I go to, much like my weight or my hair or my skin, where you're just stressing about something else and you need to find a place to put it. And so there's
a huge difference between broke and poor. And I think I'm still pretty broke. I think I have problems with overspending, or I immediately, my sister had a thing where she was like, I went to the dentist and her tooth fell out and she's unemployed, and so it was going to cost her $1,000 to get a new tooth. And I was like, well, you can't be walking around without a tooth. So I was like, she was upset, and I was like, I'll cover it.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that where I still do it. And I have a friend who's an actress who was like, so you got to stop that right now, because now she knows that she can just ask you for money. But I'm not going to let her walk around without a tooth.
I feel the same way. I only want to make more money because I want to pay for people to get teeth that can't afford teeth. I mean, I really do. I hate the idea of these expenses that come up in people's lives. I've lent last year I got my money guy called me, and every year I dread the call of what my spending was the year, because I don't look at my budgeting. I don't look at what I spend on what, and I kind of just know that he sees it and is going to judge me. And he's like, you're not, the biggest things you spend money on are lending people, giving away money.
Yep.
And I was glad to hear that, because I've never lent money and regret. I haven't lent money yet and regretted it. I've chosen good people to do it for, but it does feel like I get something more out of it sometimes than I think the person does.
Well, what sucks too is that there's so many medical GoFundMes and you just get them all the time.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
another thing.
And then
GoFundMes. I throw so much money at those.
I do too. And then they're not they're considered personal gifts. They're not considered donations, so you can't write them off on your taxes.
What? Really?
Yes, it's horrible.
That's ridiculous.
Yes. So you can't write them off on your there was an article I just read that was like this girl got some money for her cancer treatments and then her taxes ended up being like $19,000 on it.
Oh my God.
Right.
So she needs a GoFundMe for her
her taxes. I mean, it's not set up. Our country's not set up well. I don't know if anyone knows that, but
doesn't feel like it.